July 2025, Bitcoin, XRP and Crypto Market Outlook, Financial Astrology Forecast. July 2025 marks a pivotal and complex month for the crypto markets, particularly for Bitcoin and XRP, as financial astrology highlights major shifts in visibility, sentiment, and structural change. With the Sun in Cancer until July 22, Bitcoin operates behind the scenes, consolidating and repositioning, before stepping into a bold new 12-month cycle once the Sun enters Leo, likely sparking renewed confidence and bullish momentum, especially around the July 24 new moon in BTC's first house. XRP benefits from early month optimism through 11th house influences, but may enter a more secretive or transitional phase after July 22 due to Sun transiting its 12th house and Pluto retrograde in its 6th, hinting at regulatory or institutional matters. The July 10 full moon in Capricorn, BTC's 6th, XRP's 5th house, reveals stress around productivity, infrastructure, and speculative risk, while the new moon in Leo is a bullish reset tempered by Mercury retrograde and a Sun-Pluto opposition, which may bring power plays, manipulations, or market shocks. Venus in Gemini enhances social sentiment and altcoin buzz, especially AI, comms, and media-based projects, though Venus-Uranus on July 4 could trigger surprise rallies, and Venus-Mars square on July 23 warns of emotional missteps. Mercury retrograde from July 18 could cause communication breakdowns, misleading price signals, and reversal traps, especially around the July 31 conjunction with the Sun-Mars in Virgo sharpens scrutiny on fundamentals, potentially weeding out weak altcoins, while Mars square Venus and opposite the node near July 22 suggests financial choices at odds with long-term evolution. Meanwhile, a rare Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, active all month, signals structural redefinition of digital jurisdictions, regulations and global alliances, especially relevant for long-term institutional adoption and digital policy shaping. Uranus entering Gemini, July 7, kicks off a new tech, AI, and DeFi era, affecting Bitcoin's communities and XRP's public image, while Jupiter in Cancer softens the dollar index and boosts gold and silver as investors hedge against inflation and global risk. Welcome back. In today's video, we're exploring financial astrology and the key astrological events in July 2025 that may impact Bitcoin, XRP, altcoins, gold, silver, and the DXY. We'll identify potential buy-the-dip opportunities, risk moments, and trends, along with the astrology of the non-farm payroll and the FOMC rate decision. The second half includes a comprehensive trading calendar, offering insights for both experienced traders and those interested in financial astrology. Disclaimer: this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Please do your own research. Now join us on this crypto astrology journey and don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. Key astrological transits, aspects, and events of July 2025, July 3, 2025, NFP. The July 3, 2025 non-farm payroll report occurs under a complex set of astrological transits that suggest heightened volatility, market indecision, and potential for sudden reversal patterns, particularly in Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoin markets. With the moon in late Libra squaring Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, market sentiment may reflect tension between institutional control and public risk appetite. This indicates that even a strong NFP jobs print may not yield a clear bullish trend, but rather spark whipsaw action as traders try to digest the implications on interest rates, inflation, and risk on assets like crypto. For Bitcoin, the Sun at 11 degrees Cancer forms a tight opposition to BTC's natal Sun, 13 degrees Capricorn, an identity and visibility axis transit that often triggers key market reactions. Expect price pressure or temporary disillusionment, especially if the macroeconomic news triggers a shift in monetary policy expectations. Mars in Virgo trine Bitcoin's natal Mars in Capricorn suggests some underlying strength or resilience, but its Venus conjunct Uranus at 29 degrees Taurus, just hours away, that flags a possible sudden breakout or breakdown, particularly in DeFi, Layer 1, and smart contract platforms. XRP, meanwhile, receives mixed signals. Mercury in Leo sextiles XRP's natal Mars in Virgo, enabling strong messaging and promotional clarity, possibly legal or partnership-related. But the Moon in Libra closely squares XRP's natal Moon in Scorpio, activating emotional unease and public doubt. This could indicate reactionary volatility on any ambiguous news, particularly around regulatory or institutional updates. For altcoins, especially those ruled by Venus, like gaming, meme coins, or NFT tokens, the final degrees of Venus in Taurus and the conjunction to Uranus suggest a high-risk period. Pump-and-dump setups, unexpected unlocks, or flash rallies are all possible. Risk management is crucial here. Gold and silver may see safe haven bids as the Moon-Pluto square and Sun opposition to BTC's chart activate security themes. The DXY dollar index could briefly spike on stronger than expected NFP results, but with Venus about to enter Aries Gemini and Uranus shifting signs soon, a return to risk on assets is likely once initial volatility settles. July 4th, a Venus conjunct Uranus. This powerful and sudden aspect suggests a surprise breakout or flash rally, particularly for altcoins and meme-driven tokens. It may mark the start of a short-lived bullish speculative wave. Bitcoin could benefit from a social contagion effect, though volatility remains high. XRP may attract sudden regulatory attention or major partnership headlines. This transit favors risk on trades, but whipsaw action is likely, so profit-taking is advised. Gold and silver may dip slightly as traders rotate into higher-risk assets. Bearish for DXY. July 4th, Venus enters Gemini. Venus in Gemini, July 4th, 2025 Venus in Gemini stimulates optimism, communication-driven trends, and speculative activity across crypto markets, particularly altcoins associated with media, AI, and decentralized social platforms. For Bitcoin, it boosts social sentiment and community-driven movements, 11th house transit, while XRP experiences increased visibility and institutional attention, 10th house. This is a short-term bullish influence, encouraging by the buzz behavior, especially around July 4th, 7 when Venus conjoins Uranus. Overall, this is bullish for crypto markets in the short term. However, moves may be shallow unless supported by fundamentals. DXY may remain soft as investor attention shifts to higher risk, higher return assets. Precious metals stay neutral to mildly bullish, benefiting from a general diversification trend. July 4th, Neptune stations retrograde in Aries until December 10th. Neptune's retrograde invites a period of disillusionment or clarity regarding idealistic crypto narratives, especially in BTC's 9th house, global vision, regulation, and XRP's 8th house, shared financial structures, institutional liquidity. Market hype may get stripped back, revealing underlying truths. Illusions around a decentralization or regulatory safety nets may dissolve. This is neutral to mildly bearish for speculative altcoins, particularly those without solid fundamentals. Precious metals could gain modestly as traditional hedges in response to investor caution. The DXY impact remains muted unless tied to global policy developments. July 7th, Uranus in Gemini. Uranus enters Gemini on July 7th, 2025, initiating a major generational shift that will unfold through 2032. This transit marks the beginning of a technological revolution centered around digital communication, decentralized infrastructure, and AI integration. As Uranus rules disruption and Gemini rules information, expect massive acceleration in how we exchange, verify, and monetize data. The overarching theme is innovation, think Internet 3.0, Web3 governance, and decentralized identity. These trends will reshape not only crypto but also traditional financial systems. On July 7th, 2025, as Uranus enters Gemini, the immediate effect on financial and crypto markets is one of heightened nervous energy and unpredictable price action. Gemini's fast-moving, mentally stimulating air quality combines with Uranus's disruptive force to spark sudden shifts in sentiment, particularly around tech, AI, and communication-driven tokens. Expect a surge in news, rumors, and speculative chatter, potentially leading to sharp intraday swings in Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins, especially those tied to Web3, decentralized networks, or smart contracts. Bitcoin may experience a short-lived spike or dip as traders react to the symbolic shift, while XRP and mid-cap altcoins could become targets for opportunistic trades or narrative-driven pumps. Traditional markets may show slight risk-off behavior, with DXY fluctuating and precious metals like gold and silver gaining modest safe haven interest amid uncertainty. Overall, July 7th marks a volatile but visionary pivot point, setting the tone for rapid innovation and disruption, though not without initial turbulence. Immediate impact: next 3-6 months market sentiment may initially be mixed, with sharp volatility as traders react to new narratives and the symbolic shock of this astrological turning point. Bitcoin and Ethereum may benefit from renewed attention to decentralized tech, while mid-tier altcoins and meme coins could experience erratic moves due to speculative hype. XRP, navigating legal and institutional frameworks, could see turbulence unless it adapts swiftly to evolving use cases. Short-term, 6-12 months by late 2025, early 2026, innovation-related tokens, AI, DePIN, decentralized data, and cross-border payment coins could outperform. However, this period may also see increased regulatory scrutiny, particularly as Uranus begins forming aspects with outer planets. Altcoins without clear technological or utility-based foundations may face steep corrections. The dollar index, DXY, could come under moderate pressure as crypto payment systems and tokenized assets gain ground. Gold and silver remain neutral to mildly bullish, serving as hedges but competing with crypto's emerging store of value narrative. Medium term, 2026-2028 crypto enters a decisive phase. Coins and protocols aligned with Uranus Gemini values, decentralization, scalable communication, autonomous networks, may become dominant. Bitcoin's 11th house activation suggests a surge in DAO-based structures and Web3-led governance. Altcoins associated with smart contracts, cross-chain identity, and secure data channels may surge. Traditional finance faces disruption from decentralized payment rails. Regulation may tighten, but so will mainstream adoption. DXY continues to weaken slowly, while gold holds value but underperforms compared to innovative digital assets. Silver may outperform gold due to its tech sector ties. Long-term, 2029-2032, as Uranus completes its transit, the global financial and communication infrastructure may look radically different. Cryptocurrencies could become embedded in daily financial transactions, social platforms, and identity systems. Bitcoin may cement its role as a digital store of value or reserve asset, while compliant and scalable altcoins lead in digital trade. XRP could flourish if it evolves with institutional tech demands; if not, it may fade. Traditional assets like gold may retain a legacy role, but silver's utility could see a resurgence. The dollar's hegemony faces stronger competition, but not a collapse; its fate hinges on adaptability. In summary, Uranus in Gemini is a long-wave transformation that supports crypto innovation and communication-focused technologies while challenging outdated systems and hype-driven tokens. The opportunity is massive, but so is the volatility. Regulation, transparency, and utility will define the winners. This is not a single event, it's a reconfiguration of global information and finance ecosystems over the next 7 years. July 10th, full moon in Capricorn. This full moon at 18 degrees Capricorn, opposing the Sun in Cancer, highlights tensions between emotional security and structural control, especially potent for financial markets. In Bitcoin's 6th house, this lunation emphasizes market functionality, regulation, and behind-the-scenes institutional activity. Expect revelations or reactions from miners, regulatory authorities, or infrastructure players. This is a culmination point that could trigger short-term sell-offs, particularly if traders feel overleveraged or sense regulatory tightening. The Moon's conjunction with Pluto RX, by wide orb, may amplify hidden control dynamics or sudden power shifts. This full moon highlights real-world accountability and exposes weaknesses in operations. For Bitcoin, the 6th house position implies stress on mining efficiency, network stability, or regulatory audits, which can trigger a short-term sell-off or fear spike. For XRP, the moon lights up the speculative 5th house. This could mean unexpected price volatility, emotional trading, or announcements that spark retail speculation. XRP's 5th house link suggests overextension in speculative plays or loss of creative narrative control. It's a bearish influence, often signaling a buy-the-dip opportunity in strong assets. Given Mars in Virgo trine Uranus in Gemini, tech-driven moves and AI-linked altcoin projects may experience short-lived bullish spikes during this window. The dollar index, DXY, may see some upward pressure as Capricorn energy supports conservative sentiment and risk-off moves. Expect precious metals like gold and silver to stabilize or slightly correct if capital temporarily flees crypto. Overall, this full moon leans neutral to bearish, especially for overbought altcoins and short-term BTC sentiment. July 13th, Saturn retrograde in Aries until November 28, 2025. Saturn's retrograde slows down progress in legal, ideological, and regulatory frameworks. This influence may delay approvals or expose friction within governance structures. Crypto markets may respond with caution and increased scrutiny. Saturn's backward motion in Aries calls for reassessment of crypto regulation, jurisdictional boundaries, and accountability, especially for BTC 9th house and XRP 8th house, where legal, philosophical, and institutional frameworks are being tested. Bitcoin may face delays in institutional expansion or ETF legislation, while XRP may see stagnation or reassessment in legal settlements or international money flow discussions. Altcoins relying on international compliance narratives may suffer. This is a moderately bearish influence that affects market confidence, though not a crash signal. DXY remains stable or mildly stronger, while gold and silver may strengthen modestly as a defensive hedge during legal or political uncertainty. July 18th, last quarter moon in Aries, a classic risk-off phase. This moon indicates mental exhaustion, overconfidence correction, or legal tensions, especially for XRP. For BTC, the 9th house angle reflects potential market fear about regulatory decisions, data releases, or global narratives. Altcoins may sell off due to loss of momentum. This is a bearish period, favoring buy-the-dip strategies shortly after. Gold and silver gain traction. DXY may tick upward in short-term safety bid. July 18th, Mercury retrograde in Leo until August 11th. Mercury RX in Leo hits confidence, leadership, and public messaging. In BTC's first house, it warns of confusing narratives, fake news, or misinterpreted price action. Traders may act impulsively on false breakouts. For XRP, hidden communications or secret agreements may resurface. Overall, this is a bearish to cautious influence, not ideal for launching trades. Expect increased FUD or reversal of previous narratives. Precious metals may outperform. DXY remains stable or strengthens modestly. July 22nd, Sun enters Leo. This marks a shift in vitality and visibility for Bitcoin, as the Sun lights up its first house, associated with identity, direction, and public image. This typically boosts confidence and can bring a short-term bullish sentiment, particularly if price action has been suppressed during the Cancer season. For XRP, the Sun enters the 12th house, suggesting institutional or behind-the-scenes maneuvers. This is neutral to mildly bearish, as public momentum is less visible. The broader crypto market could experience increased individualism and hype-driven narratives. Precious metals may stall as risk-on behavior returns, while the DXY might soften. July 24th, Sun trine Saturn in Aries. This stable trine grounds Leo's fire with Saturn's discipline, especially as Saturn is retrograde. For Bitcoin in the first house, this provides a constructive, bullish influence, disciplined bullish action rather than euphoria. Long-term investors may find renewed confidence. For XRP, this subtly supports restructuring and inner development, 12th house themes. Altcoins may benefit from this trine through a return of measured accumulation. Gold and silver tend to hold steady under Sun, Saturn trines, while the DXY could firm slightly in response to structural stability narratives. July 24th, Sun trine Neptune in Aries. This spiritual and idealistic aspect is neutral to bullish for Bitcoin and crypto, helping reshape public narrative and fueling market imagination. In BTC's first house, it can inspire renewed faith or branding power, even amidst broader volatility. For XRP in the 12th, this influence enhances background institutional intrigue or tech development. However, this dreamy energy can also create some illusion, especially in altcoins. Gold may catch a bid on sentiment, while DXY softens under increased risk appetite. July 24th, New Moon in Leo. The Leo new moon at 2 degrees 7 minutes Leo marks a powerful reset moment, especially for Bitcoin, as it falls in its first house of identity and visibility. This lunation signals the start of a bold new one-year cycle trend for BTC, likely centered around sovereignty, personal custody, or renewed public trust. With Sun trine Saturn and trine Neptune, this new moon is backed by long-term vision and a sense of idealistic structure, a strong recipe for gradual bullish momentum and institutional credibility. This lunation for BTC may signal a potential buy-the-dip moment or the beginning of a bullish momentum phase. A renewed identity or market narrative for Bitcoin may take hold over the next 2 weeks. For XRP, the new moon falls in the introspective 12th house, suggesting that seeds are being planted in secret. This may later reveal hidden partnerships or regulatory maneuvers. This could indicate that XRP is building behind the scenes, with partnerships, legal maneuvers, or protocol upgrades not yet revealed to the public. It's a more subtle influence, but potentially bullish in the long run. Altcoins respond positively to BTC strength. Altcoins tied to entertainment, gaming, and creativity, Leo themes, could benefit from increased retail speculation and emotional re-entry into the market. However, with Mercury retrograde in Leo, miscommunications and fake-outs are possible, particularly through social media-driven hype or influencer-driven tokens. Be cautious of rug pulls or emotional FOMO. The Sun opposition Pluto RX the following day, July 25th, introduces a possible power clash, especially between decentralized communities and centralized institutions. This suggests market volatility, particularly if governments or large entities attempt to impose control or narrative dominance. Overall, the Leo new moon may present a buy-the-dip opportunity for BTC and selected altcoins, especially following any corrective action tied to the full moon. Momentum builds into early August, but caution is warranted due to Mercury retrograde and Pluto's destabilizing influence. Metals remain steady and may consolidate here as liquidity returns to speculative assets, while the DXY may soften slightly in response to revived crypto confidence. July 25th, Sun opposition Pluto, Leo, Aquarius axis, BTC 1st versus 7th house. This is a bearish to high volatility aspect. For Bitcoin, the opposition between the egoic Sun and manipulative Pluto could indicate whale or institutional power plays, clashes between retail and institutional sentiment, or regulation fears. Since this occurs across the 1st and 7th house axis, the focus is on self versus others, strong chances of market confrontation or forced repositioning. XRP may face shadowy institutional pressures. Altcoins are vulnerable to cascading sentiment shifts. Precious metals may gain on fear, DXY slightly stronger under perceived systemic threat. July 30th, Chiron retrograde in Aries until January 2, 2026. This marks a subtle but important bearish introspection phase, especially for XRP, where it touches 8th house themes of debt, shared resources, and regulatory entanglements. For Bitcoin, 9th house, deeper questions about its global role and philosophical identity arise. This may bring reflection around international or regulatory debates, and exchange-related wounds may re-emerge. Chiron retrograde suggests unhealed wounds in leadership, innovation, and risk-taking within the crypto space, particularly affecting trust in projects that suffered security breaches, insider issues, or reputational harm. XRP, 8th house, may revisit trauma tied to past lawsuits or institutional scrutiny. This is a neutral to bearish undertone, particularly for altcoins dealing with credibility gaps. While this retrograde isn't explosive, it suggests deeper emotional processing and can correlate with a slow decline or sideways consolidation. Precious metals may quietly benefit, and DXY remains largely unaffected unless sentiment turns risk-off. July 30th, FOMC rate decision. The July 30th, 2025 FOMC meeting occurs under a strongly charged sky that suggests market-moving announcements, especially for speculative and risk-sensitive assets like Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoins. The Sun and retrograde Mercury in Leo conjunct Bitcoin's ascendant, BTC/ASC, 8 degrees 53 minutes Leo, highlighting visibility, public reaction, and confidence narratives. This transit is likely to amplify the influence of FOMC messaging on BTC's short-term direction. With Mercury retrograde, miscommunication or reinterpretation of Fed policy language is highly likely, meaning any hawkish tone may initially trigger a bearish response, followed by potential reversal once clarity emerges. The Moon in Libra at 19 degrees 51 minutes forms a near-exact conjunction with BTC's 4th house cusp IC, and a close trine to BTC's natal Mercury in Aquarius, suggesting that sentiment will be highly reactive, especially regarding perceptions of Fed control and market fairness. For XRP, the Moon also closely aspects its natal Moon in Scorpio, triggering emotional and retail-driven responses, particularly in reaction to broader regulatory commentary. XRP's chart also receives pressure from Pluto retrograde in Aquarius square to natal Pluto in Capricorn, suggesting underlying transformation and restructuring pressures, especially around its utility narrative or institutional partnerships. Venus at 29 degrees Gemini, the anaretic as final A degree, signals a turning point in value perceptions, possibly in the tech sector or crypto-adjacent assets like NFTs, smart contract platforms, or decentralized finance, DeFi. Watch for extreme short-term volatility and speculative moves in altcoins, especially meme tokens or those driven by influencer or media cycles. With Uranus at 0 degrees Gemini and Neptune retrograde at 1 degree 59 minutes Aries, the overall environment is highly unstable, innovative, and ideologically driven, ideal for surprise Fed decisions or market reinterpretations that deviate from consensus. Gold and silver could experience neutral to slightly bullish movement during this FOMC window. With Pluto and Saturn both retrograde and deeply tied into longer-term restructuring themes, metals may benefit from any dovish policy lean, though conflicting economic signals could mute safe haven flows. The DXY dollar index is likely to spike initially if the Fed strikes a cautious tone, but could give back gains if retrograde Mercury triggers misinterpretations or walkbacks from Fed officials. Summary: Bitcoin, volatile and reactive, watch for false breakouts or dips. Mercury retrograde near BTC's ascendant equals short-term confusion. XRP, emotionally charged. sensitive to narratives around regulation and centralization. Likely mixed to bearish. Altcoins, highly speculative. Venus at 29 degrees means possible climax before value realignment. Short squeezes and dump risk. DXY, strong early reaction, followed by fade or reversal. Gold silver, slightly bullish, but reactive to macro tone, stronger upside if dovish stance prevails. July 31st, Venus enters Cancer until August 25th, 2025. This soft, nurturing placement favors quiet accumulation and stealth buying behavior for Bitcoin, 12th house, often by institutions or smart money. While not overtly bullish, it's supportive for long-term holders. Venus in Cancer shifts market focus to security, emotional sentiment, and protective investments. In Bitcoin's 12th house, it may reflect hidden accumulation or quiet whale activity. For XRP, transiting the 11th house, it supports community trust and long-term alliance building. Venus can bring popularity among communities or fintech partnerships, bullish social sentiment. Altcoins connected to community or real-world use cases may also benefit. This is a cautiously bullish period for core crypto assets, particularly those with emotional investor bases or strong communities. Altcoins may lag unless they appeal to loyalty or heritage narratives. Gold and silver become more attractive under Venus in Cancer for its emotional value, while DXY may weaken slightly as investors seek emotional and tangible safety. Crypto market sentiment, buy and sell timing, July 2025, early July, July 1st, 10 volatile optimism, sell the rip opportunities, the first quarter moon in Libra, July 2nd, sparks risk on sentiment, encouraging buying activity across the board. However, Venus conjunct Uranus, July 4th, in BTC's 11th house and XRP's 10th hints at a short-lived speculative rally, possibly fueled by AI, social tokens, or tech-driven altcoins. This sudden surge may invite profit-taking and whale exit activity, especially with Neptune turning retrograde the same day, suggesting a fog of hype or illusion. Expect a sell-the-rip opportunity between July 4th, 10, particularly in altcoins and XRP, as Venus aspects Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, a cocktail of emotional exuberance and hidden power plays. Bitcoin may see resistance or rejection around structural levels due to its 12th house Sun transit, keeping institutional sentiment cautious. This phase benefits gold and silver moderately, as Neptune retrograde and Saturn-Neptune conjunction fuel inflationary concerns and loss of trust in fiat systems. The DXY may weaken slightly, supporting metals and crypto briefly. Mid-July, July 10th, 18 fear creeping in, watch for by the dippo windows. The full moon in Capricorn, July 10th, shines light on productivity and accountability. Expect public fear, stress on Bitcoin miners, or critical macro data. The moon in BTC's 6th house and XRP's 5th house suggests both a reality check and fear-based pullback, making July 10th, 11 a potential buy the dip zone, especially if paired with bearish headlines. As Saturn turns retrograde, July 13th, and Mercury retrograde begins, July 18th, uncertainty intensifies. Traders grow cautious, especially with Moon transiting Aries and Taurus, July 16th, 18, two emotionally reactive, financially driven signs. Avoid emotional trades during the last quarter moon in Aries, July 18th, it marks a peak in risk-off sentiment, likely creating another buy opportunity in BTC and quality altcoins. However, avoid aggressive entries during Mercury RX, especially for XRP, as it rules XRP's 3rd and 6th houses. News-related surprises or legal confusions may emerge. Late July, July 22nd, 31 volatile, smart selling into strength, the Sun enters Leo, July 22nd, moving into BTC's 1st house, marking a shift from stealth accumulation to full visibility. Market confidence and trend-setting energy return, especially with Sun sextile Uranus, July 23rd, and Sun trine Saturn and Neptune, July 24th. This is a decisive bullish window. July 22nd, 24 is ideal for short-term momentum trades and targeted selling into strength. However, Sun opposite Pluto, July 25th, acts as a power struggle trigger. Whales or regulatory powers may attempt a dramatic reversal or control move, especially with the moon in Leo, July 24th, forming a powerful new moon. Watch for a fake-out rally or emotionally driven pump followed by fast retracement. Use trailing stops and exit plans. Gold and silver could surge quietly around this time as fear of centralized overreach rises. The DXY may recover slightly, creating headwinds for altcoins but boosting Bitcoin's narrative as digital gold. Best buy the dip windows, around July 10th, 11, post, Capricorn full moon fear-based dip. July 18th, 20, after last quarter moon plus Mercury retrograde, panic or sell-off. Post, July 24th new moon in Leo, momentum begins to return, better risk-reward entry for BTC XRP. Best short-term sell or take profit zones, July 4th, 7 Venus-Uranus conjunction euphoric pop. July 23rd, 25 Sun aspects, with Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, bring volatility and hidden motives. July 2025 moon trading calendar, July 1st, 3, moon in Libra, first quarter moon. Market sentiment, neutral to bullish, score, 6-10. The first quarter moon in Libra highlights a pivotal decision-making moment, where market participants weigh risks and rewards. With moon square the Cancer sun, uncertainty and emotional reactivity are heightened, but balanced by rational Libra diplomacy, this could represent increased buying interest around resistance levels. Venus trines Uranus just before changing signs, pointing to unexpected inflows into speculative altcoins and tech-related DeFi tokens. However, with Saturn still conjunct Neptune, confusion around regulatory or structural changes can spook markets, especially for XRP, which is sensitive to 10th house developments. Buy the dip opportunity, early July 2nd, when the moon trines Pluto and sextiles Mercury, offers a window for short-term bullish setups in BTC and XRP, particularly if there's weakness from NFP positioning. Precious metals remain neutral to slightly bullish as Neptune-Pluto sextile sustains macro hedge interest. DXY is likely pressured, benefiting crypto modestly. July 4th, 6, moon in Scorpio, waxing gibbous. Market sentiment, cautious bullish, score, 6-10. Moon in Scorpio intensifies emotional and financial depth, ideal for institutional or whale moves. Venus conjunct Uranus and then entering Gemini, BTC's 11th house, suggests a trend reversal or sudden spike in altcoin interest, particularly network and AI utility tokens. Scorpio moon's trines to Jupiter and the Sun on July 5th support an optimistic expansionary push. This could mark a breakout point or FOMO impulse if combined with favorable news. However, the Neptune retrograde beginning on July 4th could distort perception, especially regarding future tech narratives or regulations. Buy the dip opportunity, late July 4th into early July 5th offers strong trines, Moon-Jupiter, Moon-Sun, indicating supportive conditions for bold risk-on plays in BTC and smart contract platforms. Sell risk, July 5th moon square Mercury could trigger profit-taking from short-term traders. Gold and silver may soften slightly due to renewed appetite for risk assets. DXY remains under pressure. July 7th, 8, moon in Sagittarius, waxing gibbous. Market sentiment, bullish with volatility, score, 7-10. With the moon in fiery Sagittarius, optimism is pronounced. Trines to Saturn and Neptune, both in BTC's 9th, promote visionary expansion and future optimism, possibly translating into bullish Bitcoin narratives tied to legal jurisdictional clarity. Uranus enters Gemini on July 7th, a major generational shift. This sets the stage for disruptive technologies and digital currencies, like BTC and XRP, to gain investor mindshare. Venus trine Pluto adds an attractive depth to altcoins with strong fundamentals, especially those in the AI, security, and data infrastructure sectors. Rising risk appetite and crypto bullishness may suppress gold short-term. Silver may track tech sector sentiment. DXY under bearish influence, further boosting crypto's outlook. July 9, 11 Moon in Capricorn, full moon. Risk management and sell-off watch. From July 9, as the moon transits Capricorn and culminates in the full moon on July 10, market sentiment turns bearish to cautious. Score 5:10, signaling a period of heightened risk management and potential sell-offs. The Capricorn full moon, opposing the Cancer sun, often marks a peak in market tension, particularly impactful for Bitcoin, whose natal chart features strong Capricorn influences and for whom this lunation activates the sixth house of regulation, efficiency, and systemic pressures. XRP sees the full moon in its fifth house, pointing to speculative activity, potential profit-taking, and market theatrics. Bearish aspects include Moon square Saturn and Neptune on July 9 and the Sun-Moon opposition on July 10, indicating institutional hesitation, emotional volatility, and a possible shift toward risk-off behavior. The Moon's opposition to Jupiter can inflate sentiment temporarily, but also trigger sharp reversals, ideal for short-term volatility trades. Gold and silver may benefit from this environment, attracting fear-based capital flows, while the DXY holds neutral with a mild safe haven tilt. A buy-the-dip opportunity may arise after the full moon's emotional intensity fades and if strong support levels hold. Best crypto strategy: sell rallies, observe volume on dips, and prioritize larger caps like BTC and XRP, while altcoins may falter under liquidity strain. Gold and silver are short-term bullish, DXY is neutral to mildly bullish. July 12, 13 Moon in Aquarius, Saturn stations retrograde. Mental reset and macro concern. From July 12, 13, as the Moon transits Aquarius and Saturn stations retrograde, market sentiment turns neutral to slightly bearish. Score 5:10, ushering in a period of mental reset and macro-level concern. The Aquarius Moon brings analytical detachment, encouraging a strategic rather than emotional approach, especially after the recent full moon volatility. Saturn's retrograde on July 13 signals a slowdown in regulatory clarity and institutional engagement, casting uncertainty over Bitcoin and XRP, particularly in areas linked to adoption and compliance. The Moon's oppositions to Mercury and quincunx to Mars reflect inner conflict between logic and execution, creating choppy price action and the risk of false breakouts, especially in mid-cap and utility-focused altcoins. A Venus trine to the Moon on July 12 may spark a brief relief rally, especially in tokens tied to social, Web3, or data-sharing narratives. XRP likely moves sideways, while BTC may gain modest support from a weakening DXY. Altcoin traders should be selective, as Saturn-Neptune skies tolerate little hype. Best strategy: focus on large-cap plays and reduce exposure to low-liquidity assets. Gold and silver trend slightly bullish as safe haven sentiment grows, and DXY turns neutral to mildly bearish. July 14, 15 Moon in Pisces. Waning Gibbous. Emotional liquidity and narrative expansion. Market sentiment leans bullish with volatility during the Moon in Pisces transit, supported by its conjunction with the North Node and trines to Jupiter and the Sun, creating a temporary wave of optimism and emotional liquidity, especially favorable for speculative tokens like AI, meme coins, or metaverse projects. With a sentiment score of 610, this period marks a risk-on window, though the Moon squares to Uranus and Venus and opposition to Mars signal emotional overreactions and potential impulse trading. Short-lived rallies and retail-driven FOMO may push prices up, but traders should stay grounded and strategic. XRP could benefit from global narrative themes, while BTC finds modest strength through Jupiter's influence. Altcoins are best played with tight risk controls, buy early dips and sell into strength before July 16, remaining alert for manipulative pumps. Gold and silver may face slight bearish pressure as speculative appetite rises, and the DXY softens under risk-on sentiment. July 16 to 17, Moon in Aries, last quarter moon from July 16 to 21, the Bitcoin, XRP, and altcoin markets face a moderately bearish to neutral sentiment, driven by tense astrological aspects, particularly the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which fosters a cautious, capital-preserving mindset among investors. The last quarter moon signals a period of reflection and strategic repositioning, while Aries moon transits, July 16, 17, heighten emotional volatility and impulsivity. As the moon conjoins Saturn and Neptune and squares Jupiter, short-term sell-offs or dips may occur, especially in Bitcoin and XRP, with a market sentiment score of 410. These fluctuations present cautious buy-the-dip opportunities, but high volatility demands restraint. The moon's sextile to Pluto also brings hidden power dynamics to the surface, hinting at behind-the-scenes accumulation. Meanwhile, gold and silver show mixed signals, and a potentially strengthening DXY suggests investors may be shifting towards safer assets during this recalibration phase. July 18 to 19, Moon in Taurus, waning crescent moon market sentiment remains broadly bearish as Mercury begins its retrograde phase, injecting confusion and volatility into trading strategies. The sentiment score sits at 310 overall. However, with the moon in Taurus from July 18, 19, there's a shift toward groundedness and brief stability, offering long-term holders potential buy-the-dip opportunities, especially as the moon forms supportive aspects to Jupiter and Mars. While the retrograde motion of Mercury warns of misinformation, missteps, and sudden reversals, particularly highlighted by the moon square to Pluto and Mercury, and opposition to Lilith, this period may still favor cautious accumulation of solid assets like BTC and XRP. Interest in altcoins may increase, but only those with strong fundamentals are likely to withstand retrograde chaos. Meanwhile, gold and silver benefit from the Taurus moon's affinity for tangible value, showing mild bullishness, while the DXY trends neutral to soft. Overall, despite the retrograde fog, selectively timed buys could be fruitful toward the end of this phase. July 20 to 21, Moon in Gemini, waning crescent as the moon moves into Gemini on July 20, 21, market sentiment turns neutral with a slight bullish bias, reflected in a sentiment score of 510. Increased communication, speculative interest, and headline-driven momentum create a dynamic environment, particularly for altcoins tied to AI, DeFi, and media narratives. Bitcoin and XRP remain relatively stable, offering strategic accumulation opportunities during dips, while altcoins experience sharp swings, attracting short-term traders but risking abrupt reversals. The moon's conjunction with Uranus and supportive aspects to Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto suggest surprise developments and data-driven optimism, though caution is warranted due to the Venus-Mars square on July 21, which heightens emotional reactions and trading friction. The DXY trends weak, supporting speculative appetite, while gold and silver retain mild bullishness as a safe haven counterbalance. Overall, this period is best suited for tactical trades, profit-taking on altcoin spikes, and strategic portfolio positioning rather than aggressive moves. July 22 to 23, Moon in Cancer, waning crescent from July 22 to 23, as the moon transits Cancer and the sun enters Leo, market sentiment across cryptocurrencies reflects a mix of caution and emerging optimism, resulting in an overall sentiment score of 5-6-10. The moon in Cancer brings heightened emotional sensitivity, further complicated by its square to Saturn and Neptune, which may cause confusion and hesitation among investors, especially around XRP and altcoins. Meanwhile, Bitcoin begins a new solar cycle as the sun enters Leo and its first house, boosting confidence, visibility, and leadership potential in the crypto space, making this a strategic accumulation point for BTC bullish sentiment. However, the Venus-Mars square on July 23 increases the risk of impulsive decisions and emotional overtrading, so holding a steady strategy is advised. Altcoins remain mixed and volatile, while XRP trends neutral to bearish. The DXY softens slightly, and gold and silver benefit modestly from safe haven demand. Overall, this period favors cautious positioning and selective accumulation, particularly for BTC. July 24 to 26, Moon in Leo. New moon. The new moon in Leo on July 24 initiates a pivotal bullish reset in the crypto markets, raising the overall sentiment score to 710 as enthusiasm, optimism, and risk appetite surge, especially for Bitcoin and altcoins aligned with creative or AI-driven narratives. The Leo influence fuels bold investor moves, while supportive trines to Saturn and Neptune lend a foundation of grounded vision, making this an ideal time for buy-the-dip strategies and new position entries. BTC shows strong breakout potential, sentiment 810, particularly if macro or regulatory news aligns, while XRP remains cautious, 610, due to potential legal volatility. Altcoins rally on narrative appeal but may experience choppy corrections following the Sun-Pluto opposition on July 25, which brings power plays and institutional maneuvers that could trigger sharp pullbacks or manipulation. Gold and silver continue strengthening amid safe haven interest, while the DXY trends bearish. Ideal sell window, post-rally on July 25, when tension peaks with Pluto. July 27 to 28. Moon in Virgo, waxing crescent. Under the moon in Virgo, market sentiment shifts to neutral to slightly bearish with a sentiment score of 410, as traders adopt a more analytical and cautious stance following the exuberance of the Leo new moon. The Virgo moon inspires profit-taking, strategic reassessment, and a focus on fundamentals, leading investors to trim risky positions while refining watchlists for future entries. Altcoins with poor utility may be filtered out, while solid projects, particularly in DeFi, infrastructure, or AI, could attract selective buying. The moon's conjunction with Mars on July 28 brings urgency and heightened scrutiny, favoring short-term tactical plays. This is a prime period for selling into strength on overextended assets and selectively buying undervalued, high-utility cryptos. Bitcoin holds a neutral to bullish tone, 610, XRP remains stable, 510, and altcoins are mixed. Precious metals continue their bullish trend as safety assets, while the DXY encounters technical resistance and trends neutral to bearish. July 29 to 31, Moon in Libra, waxing crescent. From July 29 to 31, as the moon moves from Libra to Scorpio, market sentiment starts with a neutral balance, 510, but builds toward a bullish emotional climax, particularly for Bitcoin and XRP. The Libra moon encourages harmony and reallocation, with investors carefully managing risk and trimming positions ahead of potential volatility triggered by aspects to Uranus and Neptune. This is a time for strategic portfolio balancing rather than impulsive action, with gold and silver offering safe diversification amid crypto fluctuations. As the moon shifts into Scorpio on July 31 and trines Venus, sentiment becomes decisively bullish, especially for BTC and XRP, with deep institutional recalibration and possible whale re-entry. Sun conjunct Mercury adds hype and FOMO risk, fueling surges in low-cap altcoins, though heightened mood swings and misinformation may increase volatility. The DXY trends bearish, while gold and silver show strong bullish momentum. This concludes our crypto market forecast. If you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.